So what I've done here is I've picked a couple of angles, not at random, 30, 150, 210, and 330. And I want you to find the related acute angles for all four of those angles. So I'm going to pause the video, see if you could do that one. So presumably you've done that. What you found out is that they're all the same. So the related acute angle for every single one of these is 30 degrees. So each of these have the same related acute angle. And what we're going to find is that means that these four angles are connected to each other in some way. So let's find out how they're connected. So what we're going to do, we're going to do some calculator work now. And we're going to start figuring out what all these things are equal to. So I want sine 30, sine 150, sine 210, sine 330, and so on and so forth. So you type in sine 30 is 0.5, sine 150 is 0.5, sine 210 is negative 0.5, and so on and so forth. I'm going to start filling these in. So this is going to be 0.5, 0.5, negative 0.5, and negative 0.5. The cosine of 30 is 0.866, and as you go through them, you'll find that this one is negative 0.866, negative 0.866, and positive again, 0.866. Keep those handy. We're going to do it for the tangent angles now. So tangent of 30, these are all special angles, so technically we could also do it like that. It's going to be 1 over root 3. Let's pretend we didn't know that. So that's going to be 0.577, and that's going to be negative 0.577 if you do it in the calculator. That's positive, and that's going to be negative. And now what we're going to do is we're going to summarize kind of what we found in this chart over here. And what I want to know is I want to know if it's positive or negative. So what we notice is that if they're related, for any angle that has the same related acute angle, the ratios are all going to be the same. So the sine of 30 and the sine of 150, 210, 330 are all kind of 0.5. The difference is that they may be plus or minus. Same thing for if you do it with the cosine, they're all kind of the same, except there's some positives and negatives. So what we find is that in the first quadrant, if you go through it, sine is positive, cosine is positive, tangent is positive. If you go in the second quadrant, you could see that that's the 150. Sine was positive, cosine was negative, and tangent was negative. In the third quadrant, that's the 210, tangent was positive, negative, and negative, but the other two were negative. In the fourth quadrant, the tangent was negative, cosine was positive, sine was negative. So there we go. So sine, the sine of an angle in the first quadrant is positive, also in the second in the quadrant, but in the third and fourth, the sine is going to be negative. And we have a way of remembering that. So we have kind of a mnemonic, and the mnemonic is as follows. So we say that in the first quadrant, they're all positive. In the second quadrant, sine is positive. In the third quadrant, tangent is positive. And in the fourth quadrant, the cosine is positive. And this is sometimes referred to as the cast rule. I've seen another mnemonic in some books that say like all students take calculus. And the nice thing about that is it goes in order from 1, 2, 3, 4. However you do it, it's important to remember the what's positive in a given quadrant. So let's go use that now. So let's say I want to find find the exact value of 225. Okay. So I am going to let's draw this thing. It's going to be like that and like that. And what we need is we need the related acute angle. So the related acute angle is over there. And the related acute angle is going to be, since we're in the third quadrant, it's going to be the angle minus 180. So it's going to be 225 minus 180, which is going to be 45 degrees. So what that tells us, it tells us that the sine of, we know that the related acute angle is 45 degrees. Now, we may remember from our special triangles, remember these guys? That the sine of 45 degrees is 1 over root 2. So the sine of our related angle is 1 over root 2. And what that tells us is that the sine of ours is going to be the same thing, maybe negative. Now, how do we know if it's negative or not? Well, we're going to look at the cast rule. Oops. We're going to do the cast rule. And it's in the third quadrant, so tangent is positive. This is not a tangent, it's a sine, so it's going to be negative. So the sine of 225 is negative 1 over root 2. And we did all that. So that's the exact answer without a calculator. Find the exact value of the cosine of 120. So 120 is in the second quadrant. So this angle over here is 120 degrees. We need to find the related acute angle, and the related acute angle here is 60 degrees. It's going to be 180 minus that. I'll write it out. So what do we know? We know that the related acute angle is 60 degrees. We know that the cosine of 60 degrees. So we're going to have to get our other special triangle. So the cosine of 60 is 1 over 2. So the cosine of 60 is 1 over 2. And then we have, so that's what the cosine of 120 is going to be equal to a half, mostly. Now we just have to figure out whether it's positive or negative. So we look at the cast rule. In this quadrant, sine is positive. That's not a sine. It's going to be negative. So the cosine of 120, I wrote that in red last time. The cosine of 120 is going to be negative 1 over 2. Find the exact value of the tangent of 240. So 240 is in the third quadrant. That's 240. If you work it out, this ends up being 240 minus 180 is going to be 60 degrees. So the related acute angle is 60 degrees. The tangent of 60 degrees is root 3. And if we look at the cast rule, tangent is positive in this quadrant, and we're doing tangent. So the tangent of 240 is also going to be equal to the square root of 3. We'll do one last example. Find the exact value of cosine of 330. You could try this yourself. There's nothing special here. That's in the fourth quadrant. It's 330 degrees. Our related acute angle is over there. That's going to be 30 degrees. The related acute angle is 30 degrees. The cosine of 30 degrees is root 3 over 2, I believe. According to the cast rule, we're in the fourth quadrant. Cosine is positive. We're doing cosine, so it's going to stay positive. So the cosine of 330 is root 3 over 2. There you go.